We have us a good game coming up in Brazil as Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers are taking on Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. This is your Week 1 2025 prediction and preview video. Hit subscribe button if you're new. Also hit the like button. Personally, for me, I love overseas games, especially games in Brazil. Now, the turf is not the best. Last year, we got to see the Green Bay Packers take on the Philadelphia Eagles. They were complaining about the turf. Hopefully, the turf is better in this matchup. Since there isn't a home team, I do want to start off with the Chargers here. The last 2 times that you went against Kansas City in the regular season, you weren't fully healthy. You were missing your 2 starting tackles in the first matchup because of what happened a week before against the Steelers. And Justin Herbert had an ankle injury. A rematch that happened later on in the season, just a few months later. No Ladd McConkey. He was out for that matchup. Quentin Johnston was your number 1 wide receiver. In this matchup, you're as healthy as you're going to get. Now, your offensive line, you had to do some shuffles into certain positions. Rashawn Slater went down with a lower leg injury. He's going to miss the entire season, which does suck. But you have Trey Pipkins, who is your starting right tackle. Joe Alt will be your starting left tackle. Joe Alt was a starting right tackle last year. I mentioned this in my last video about the Chargers. You want him to play that left tackle position because he's your best tackle right now, and that's the blind side of Justin Herbert. One thing that I know for sure, Coach Harbaugh and Greg Roman, they're going to try to run the air out the football. I'm not even worried about that in this matchup. Kansas City does have an awesome run defense, and that's been the case over the last 4 to 5 years for sure. But one thing that the Chargers have done a very good job of based off last season, they will stick with that run even when it's not working out. They're just hoping for some explosive plays to happen here and there. Can Greg Roman get creative enough in the pass game with weapons like Ladd McConkey and the same with Quentin Johnston? Ladd McConkey was one of the best wide receivers in the NFL last year. He was the best wide receiver on this roster. Quentin Johnston had a solid year last year for his standards. His rookie season was completely terrible. He had so many drops in that first year, but in year 2, he gained more confidence. This is the thing with Quentin Johnston. Get him involved early as possible. And one thing to look out for is to see if he can catch the football on a consistent basis. He can get on top of cornerbacks. He's a smooth route runner. The only thing is his hands, and it's just being consistent with catching the football. That's it. But Ladd McConkey should be the go-to wide receiver. Expect for him to be double covered. This is the one thing that Kansas City loves to do with Coach Spags. They'll go out there and they'll put Trent McDuffie on the number 2 wide receiver, and they'll double team your number 1 option. And it frustrates most offenses in the NFL. But this is where the Chargers can differ in this matchup. Keenan Allen is returning back to the roster. Justin Herbert has played majority of his career with Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is that veteran. Those choice routes, having him run a bunch of option routes underneath, and he is still a very good route runner. Give him the football in space. Let him work out. And that chemistry that he has built with Justin Herbert over the last few years. I know they moved on from him last year. He went to the Chicago Bears, but he still had a solid season last year with Caleb Williams and the Bears. You can still make him a legitimate option in this offense, especially on 3rd down. But Greg Roman needs to be more creative with the pass game concepts. It was so many situations last year and so many games to where they'll run a bunch of curl routes and a bunch of slants, just everything underneath. They would not expand those plays down the field. And when they did, they were behind the 8 ball. They were down by 14 or plus points. You can't have that in this game. Continue to be creative over and over again. And just use some motion to your advantage with some of these wide receivers. Run some rub routes out there. Have wide receivers come across each other. Just do something to confuse Kansas City. You don't want them to just go out there and stay stuck in the same defense the entire time and beat you in that man coverage. And one more thing to look out for. Coach Spags has been phenomenal at dialing up sneaky blitzes. He did it against Josh Allen, the same against Lamar Jackson, and against Joe Burrow. And 9 times out of 10, when that blitz hits, no one else is open because it comes home so fast. So be on the lookout for that. In my opinion, Will Dissly, he's a very good blocker. Last year, he had a career high in receiving yards. Have him on a check and release route to where he's blocking for a couple of seconds, then he booms out for a route. Little things like that could help you out in this matchup. I would double team Chris Jones as much as possible in the interior of this defense. That's been the one player that has constantly hurt Justin Herbert over and over again in terms of stepping up inside the pocket and just making plays. Kansas City has a tough front 7. And I don't know if the Chargers have the offensive line without Rashawn Slater to go out there and try to bully this front 7 with the pieces that they have. But Joe Alt, Bradley at the center position, Bradley last year was not a good player at this position. He had some solid moments, but more times than not, he let up a lot of pressure. And as a run blocker, he's 50-50. You are bringing in Mekhi Becton, and Mekhi Becton is questionable for this matchup. But Mekhi Becton is coming off a career year with the Philadelphia Eagles, but he was a very good guard last season. Just pay attention to this interior of this offensive line and the shuffle with Trey Pipkins now being back at right tackle and Joe Alt being at the left tackle position. And we all know, like I mentioned before, Chargers, they're going to try to run the football as much as possible. You spend a first-round pick on a Marion Hampton out of North Carolina. You picked up Najee Harris out of free agency when he left the Steelers. Najee Harris is dealing with an eye injury, but he's on pace to play in this matchup. If all else fails, run this offense through your running backs. Try to get those explosive plays with a Marion Hampton. Najee Harris is more so the running back that you can give the football to for 3 to 4 yards into tough situations. You want to get those big chunk plays. That's why you drafted Marion Hampton, and he can catch the football at the backfield as well. Be creative. So the biggest keys here for the Chargers to get over the hump against Kansas City and Brazil is the play calling concepts passing-wise with Greg Roman, offensive line protection, and the reshuffle of this offensive line without Rashawn Slater. And how many chunk plays can you get with a Marion Hampton, Ladd McConkey, and Quentin Johnson in open space? And I trust that Justin Herbert would take care of the football. Yes, he had 4 interceptions in that playoff game, but in the regular season last year, he only had 3 interceptions, and he was very efficient. The Chargers, they're going away from the standpoint of having Herbert go out there and have 35 pass attempts a game. They don't want to do that anymore. So that means your defense has to step up, because if you go down by 14 or more points, you may be in trouble. The defense here with the Chargers, as long as Jesse Minter is the defensive coordinator, he's going to keep you in close football games over and over again. But your gap responsibility has to be there with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes with Lamar Jackson, they're some of the most annoying quarterbacks to play against. I love to see them play. They constantly just break all these sacks, and they just go out there and take these weird angles. You have to take the right angle with Patrick Mahomes. He has the best pocket awareness in the game. He can sense that pressure. He breaks down your defense. 2 to 3 more seconds for Mahomes, that could be a 50-plus yard chunk play to someone like Travis Kelce, or even to a very good wide receiver in Xavier Worthy. So you have to limit those big-time plays going down the field and be on lookout for Travis Kelce. I know a lot of people, they're making fun of Travis Kelce. They're saying that he's not the same tight end that he once was. Travis Kelce is still the go-to target for Patrick, especially on third down. It's those choice routes. It's those option routes over and over again. He may fake like he's going on a slant. He comes back for an out cut. Be on lookout for that. And we've seen Derwin James match up with him one-on-one. Derwin James has had some good moments against Travis. He's had some bad moments. Just be on lookout for Travis Kelce on third down and take the right angles and have the right gap responsibility against Kansas City. And watch out for the motion plays with Xavier Worthy. It may be fake motion. Andy Reid is the master of this. He may have your offense. He may have his offense going left and have your defense going that way. The next thing you know, they're going right. Now you don't have that momentum anymore. And you're trying to keep up with that speed in the open field with someone like Xavier Worthy, who has blazing speed. Just be on lookout for those wacky plays. We've seen so many times those shovel passes with Travis Kelce, and the same with Patrick Mahomes. Just expect the unexpected. And Jesse Minter has done a very good job with that. One way to match that speed and having that versatility on the back end is playing that 3 safety look. Now, you may call me crazy, but this worked out last year for Jesse Minter. He'll put 3 safeties on the field. It's a light box, but having Derwin James there, who is a safety / linebacker, he tackles like a linebacker, but he's listed as a safety, that will help you out. So have some extra protection on the back end of your defense to help solve the speed problem with Xavier Worthy, and the same with Travis Kelce. Rashee Rice is out for the next 6 games. He's serving a suspension because of a car accident that happened in Texas. But you still have some key players to watch for Kansas City on the offensive end. My key players defensively for the Chargers is Thule. Thule last year, phenomenal pass rusher coming off the edge, but they had a mix of pass rushers with Thule, the same with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. They moved on from Joey Bosa. You have Khalil Mack still. He's going to hold things down as a run stopper, put that pressure on Patrick Mahomes. Thule, Kyle Kennard, Bud Dupree. Those are your 4 edge rushers to look at in this matchup. You have Denzel Perryman, very good linebacker. Unfortunately, Junior Colson, who I had a lot of high hopes for because he's a former player at Michigan, he's on IR. He's injured right now. So that does suck. And that does give you A thin area right there, the linebacker position. But once again, Derwin James can slide in. He's a do-it-all player. The rest of your secondary, Dante Jackson, I think he's a very good corner. He's a speedy press man corner that you would want in this matchup. And you may put him in one-on-one situations with someone like Xavier Worthy. And just because he's fast doesn't mean that you want him to press up against Xavier Worthy. You just want him to be in that matchup with Xavier Worthy in those key situations. Gilman, very good safety, and the same with Elijah Molden. And you have Cam Hart in the back end of this defense. And let's not forget last year. I said in every video, every single season is different. But last year, the Chargers did win a game without scoring an offensive touchdown against the Atlanta Falcons because they made a lot of good plays on their back end. And I know at that point in time, Kirk Cousins wasn't starting quarterback. Kirk Cousins is not on the same level as Patrick Mahomes, but it's important to bring that up. But I'd like the Chargers to keep it close in this matchup. It just comes down with those explosive plays on the offensive end and the same on the defensive end. Let's talk about Kansas City. All we've heard all offseason long is how pissed off Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and the entire Chiefs organization is over the fact that they lost against the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl the way that they did. But I look at the roster and I look at the changes that they made this offseason, and I agree with a lot of them. The first thing to pay attention to is how is this offensive line going to look without Joe Thuney? Joe Thuney was so good last year. They switched him out from being a left guard and they put him at the tackle position. That is how good he was. He's no longer here. You traded him to the Chicago Bears to bring in a valuable draft pick. Your offensive line now consists of talent such as Jawan Taylor at the right tackle position. It's also important to bring up they brought in Jalen Moore in free agency. Trey Smith at the right guard position, Creed Humphrey, center position, Kingsley at the left guard position, and Josh Simmons, who he drafted in the first round at the left tackle position. They had the big three in the interior of their offensive line with Joe Thuney, and they did major damage in the interior in terms of pass blocking and run blocking, from swinging those guards out and just running behind the center and the right guard. Isaiah Pacheco, he's fully healthy, had a down year last year because of injuries. When you go against a team like the Chargers, they want to go out there, they want to be aggressive, they want to get to the passer and stop the run. But you create enough leverage, like I mentioned before, with Andy Reid, that can work out to your advantage when you have a defense that's so aggressive and you have all this motion going on behind the line of scrimmage with Xavier Worthy, the same with Hollywood Brown. That can work out into your favor. And let's talk about the wide receiving core here for a second. You finally have some consistency. Xavier Worthy is coming back after that very good rookie season last year. He had a very impressive Super Bowl. I know a lot of people focus on that blowout, but he was the only player that showed up on the back end of that game and for the entire game in general. Travis Kelce still hanging around at the tight end position. The chemistry with him and Mahomes is pretty much unmatched at this point. And Hollywood Brown, he is dealing with an injury right now as I record this video. But Andy Reid said over the last 48 hours, he's on pace to play in week 1. You now have that speed threat on opposite sides of the field. You want to keep LA honest. You want to take those deep shots down the field on those post routes, on those corners, on those digs over and over again. You want to force the Chargers to have that threat in their mind, and it opens up everything underneath. We've seen Patrick Mahomes become this guns blazing quarterback early on in his career with Travis Kelce and the same with Tyreek Hill. But since they traded Tyreek Hill to the Miami Dolphins, he's been digging and dunking his way down the field, being very methodical. And when the wide receivers can catch the football in space, it helps move this offense along. Take those chunk plays if they're there and scheme up some of those plays. And that's one thing that Andy Reid has done a great job of. And just be creative in this matchup. But it's Patrick Mahomes. To me, he's still the best quarterback in the game. All the wide receivers have to do is get open and catch the football. He's going to also throw you open in many situations. And I would target Travis Kelce as much as possible against Derwin James in crucial situations. It was one play last year to where Patrick Mahomes got out in space. They forced Derwin James to pick. Either let Patrick Mahomes get this first down or he throws it to Travis Kelce and he can get some more yards out of the situation. He picked Travis Kelce. Mahomes goes for the first down. They get that field goal. Force the Chargers to be in a pick situation, so where it could be a lose-lose situation, and keep your plays ahead of schedule. And the turnovers here with Mahomes. I want to talk about this before I go into the defense. I know that his numbers have regressed over the last 2 years, but when you watch him on the field, he is still playing at a high level. A lot of those turnovers, they're not on Mahomes. It's on the wide receiver dropping the ball. It's also on the offensive line having the wrong assignment, blocking the wrong player. It goes down with a tip pick. We haven't seen that over the last year. They've gotten better with catching the football because they moved on from Kadarius Toney. And pay attention to a wily veteran and Juju Smith-Schuster, who did have a good game last year against the Saints. It's wide receiver by committee behind Hollywood Brown and the same with Xavier Worthy, but they have a lot of talent on this roster in the starting lineup. And I can't wait to see Rashee Rice back on this field after he serves his 6-game suspension. But offensively, they should be fine. Just pay attention to the rookie left tackle and Josh Simmons and Kingsley playing that left guard position. But the run game should still be smooth with Kareem Hunt and the same with Isaiah Pacheco. Defensively, Steve Spagnuolo. I'm taking away Ladd McConkey and I'm taking away Keenan Allen. Forcing to throw the football to Quentin Johnson underneath. You have linebackers that can keep up with him from sideline to sideline if he's on a drag route. Nick Bolton is one of those linebackers, and the same with Leo Chanel, who was a very good linebacker. He had a very good game in the first game of the season last year against the Baltimore Ravens. Drew Tranquill, he's questionable for this matchup, but he's on pace to play. He's a very good linebacker. They have one of the most underrated linebacking rooms in football. They're very good against the run. They're very good against the pass. And you want to make the Chargers one-dimensional. You want to force Coach Harbaugh and force Greg Roman into an uncomfortable situation. You stop that run. And this is one thing that Kansas City has been so phenomenal at doing with Chris Jones and the same with George Karlaftis. If you can force Greg Roman to open up that playbook and to pass more, that works into your hand because you have a healthy secondary right now. Brian Cook is 100% healthy. Very good safety. Shamari Connor, very good player to have in the secondary. Trent McDuffie is still one of the best cornerbacks in the game. Christian Fulton, he's a former Los Angeles Charger. He had a very good year last year with the Chargers. We'll see if he can keep that play up with Kansas City. But usually when you play in a talented defense like this, that has a very good front seven and a phenomenal corner on the opposite side, it helps to bring the best out of football players. And you have Jalen Watson who can play all over the secondary. But take away Keenan Allen, take away Ladd McConkey as much as possible, and put a lot of emphasis on that run game with Najee Harris. I'm not worried about Najee Harris going out there and just gashing Kansas City over and over again with his rushing ability because he's a bowling ball. He's not known for going out there and getting 50 to 60 yards in a cloud of dust and having those long touchdowns with the Steelers. But he's never played with a quarterback like Justin Herbert. The running back that I'm more so concerned about is a Marion Hampton. That's the man. If you miss a tackle, he could possibly hit his head on the goalpost. But once again, you have one of the best defensive tackles in the game, maybe the best defensive tackle right now, in Chris Jones. George Karlaftis can come off the edge. It's the reason why that you went out and you gave him a contract extension this offseason. They can get to Justin Herbert. They can put a lot of pressure on the right side of the offensive line and force this game to be close like how you've done in the last few matchups. You'll be in a very good situation. With all of that being said, this is going to be a close football game. I have Kansas City winning this matchup 24-23. But let me know who you have in the comment section below. Kansas City or the Chargers. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless.